So, what happens when a planned religious procession and a protest collide on the same street? Well, that's exactly what went down on a Saturday afternoon in South Auckland. The event quickly became a flashpoint, and it's raising some pretty serious questions about where the right to protest ends and the right to religious freedom begins. Let's break down what happened.
Right at the heart of the confrontation was this banner, held up by the protesters. This one sentence really frames the tension of the day, doesn't it? It sets a scene where culture, faith, and national identity were all suddenly put under a microscope, right there on a suburban street.
All right, to get our heads around this, we're going to walk through it step by step. First, we'll look at that initial confrontation. Then, the two groups involved. We'll get into the official police response, explore that tricky line between protest and intimidation, and finally, talk about the national values this whole thing brings up.
So let's start in Manurewa, South Auckland. This is where an event that was meant to be a peaceful celebration of faith ran headfirst into an equally passionate display of protest. It really created a tense standoff.
And here it is in a nutshell. You've got one group, the Sikh community, holding a pre-approved religious parade. Then you have another group, supporters of Destiny Church, who decided to meet them with a Haka. Two completely different forms of public expression sharing one road.
Okay, so to really grasp what happened, we need to understand a bit more about the two groups involved and the actual timeline of the confrontation itself. First off, what exactly is a Nagar Kirtan? Well, it's a really important Sikh tradition. It's not a political march or anything like that. It's basically a mobile congregation. It's a peaceful parade where holy hymns are sung to bless the community. Think of it as a moving act of worship and celebration.
So here's how the day actually played out. The Nagar Kirtan with hundreds of people was on its planned 5-kilometer route. But around 2 p.m., as they were heading back to the temple, their path was blocked. That's when Destiny Church members started their Haka, directly facing the procession. The standoff lasted for about 30 minutes before police had to step in and clear the way.
So why were they there? Well, the motivation came straight from their leader, Brian Tamaki. A video of the Haka was posted with a caption that framed the whole thing not as a disruption, but as true patriots standing their ground to send a clear message: keep NZ, NZ. Now, as things got more and more tense, an official response was obviously needed. So let's turn to the role the police played in managing all this.
The official police statement gives us the hard facts. They identified a group of about 50 people who weren't just protesting on the sidewalk, but were actively blocking a major road with the pretty clear intention of disrupting the parade.
And here, Inspector Matt Hoyes drew a really clear line in the sand. He said, police won't tolerate actions that threaten public safety or intimidate people who are just exercising their own lawful rights.
And it's so crucial to see that the police didn't just stand by. They took specific actions. They moved in swiftly to unblock the road, they provided an escort to make sure the procession could finish safely, and then they stayed in the area to reassure the local community.
This whole incident kind of forces us to look beyond just what happened that day. It pushes us into a much bigger, more complex conversation about rights and responsibilities, especially in a multicultural society like New Zealand.
So here's the central dilemma, right? New Zealand law absolutely protects the right to protest. But the police statement makes it really clear that this right isn't unlimited. When a protest involves blocking public roads or when it crosses over into intimidation, well, that's when it crosses a line.
And this is a really critical piece of the puzzle. The Nagar Kirtan wasn't just some spontaneous gathering. It was an officially sanctioned event. The Sikh community had gone through all the proper channels. They got a permit from the Auckland Council. So disrupting it wasn't just challenging a community, it was challenging a lawful, pre-approved assembly. Now, to understand this protest fully, it helps to see it as part of a verified pattern. Just back in June, Destiny Church held a faith, flag, and family march that also took aim at immigration and non-Christian religions. And a few months before that, its leader had publicly called Indian immigration an invasion. These aren't opinions. This is just a factual record of previous actions and statements.
So what happens after the police leave and the road is clear? Let's take a look at the response from the community and what this incident really says about New Zealand's core values.
According to people who were there, the response from the Sikh community was just one of deliberate calm. Instead of engaging with the protesters, they chose restraint. Their main priority wasn't a confrontation. It was de-escalation and protecting their holy scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib, which was the whole reason for the procession.
Manurewa local board member Marshall Walia really summed up the community's #1 concern: safety. But he also asked a really powerful question. Considering the Sikh community's growth and all their contributions, especially during the COVID relief efforts, why were they being targeted? You know, when you boil it all down, this one event touches on several pillars of New Zealand society. The right to protest is absolutely cherished, but so is respect for different faiths. And holding it all together is the rule of law, which is there to make sure one group's rights don't end up trampling on another's.
And that leaves us with a central question. In a society as diverse as ours, how do we protect that vital right to protest while also guaranteeing every single community's right to peace? Events like this one are constantly forcing us to re-examine that balance.